Have you ever heard of a vehicle that costs more than most people's houses, but nobody actually wants to buy? Well, that's exactly what's happening in Australia right now with a certain category of utility vehicles, and the reasons behind it are absolutely shocking. Stick around because on the Drive Intel, we're diving deep into one of the automotive industry's most baffling mysteries. The numbers don't lie, and what we've uncovered might completely change the way you look at the truck market forever. Welcome back to the Drive Intel, where we uncover the truth behind the automotive industry's biggest stories. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel because we drop incredible insights like this every single week. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we're about to reveal. So here's the situation. In Australia, utility vehicles, or Utes as the locals call them, have always been a massive part of the culture. These are the workhorses of the Australian outback, the vehicles that construction workers, farmers, and everyday Aussies depend on to get the job done. For decades, Utes have been the best sellers down under. But something strange is happening right now, and it's creating a massive problem for manufacturers. A whole category of premium Utes that cost $75,000 or more are sitting on dealership lots collecting dust. Nobody wants them, and the industry is completely confused about why. Let's talk about what these vehicles actually are. We're talking about high-end utility vehicles from major manufacturers that have basically loaded every single feature, every piece of technology, and every luxury option you can imagine into these trucks. They've got leather interiors, advanced infotainment systems, satellite navigation, climate control, and all kinds of creature comforts that you'd expect to find in a luxury sedan. These are supposed to be the premium option for UT buyers who want it all. The manufacturers spent millions developing these vehicles, creating marketing campaigns, and they genuinely believed Australian consumers would be excited to pay top dollar for them. But here's where it gets interesting. The reality on the ground is completely different from what these companies anticipated. Dealerships across Australia are reporting that these premium Utes are moving slower than ever before. Some of these vehicles have been sitting on lots for months without a single offer. Sales numbers are down significantly, and manufacturers are starting to panic. They're offering discounts, running special promotions, and doing everything they can to move inventory. But even with all these incentives, buyers just aren't interested. This has created what industry experts are calling a crisis of confidence in the premium Ute segment. Now, you might be wondering why this is actually happening. If UTs are so popular in Australia, why wouldn't people want the fancy loaded version? The answer is more complex than you might think. First of all, let's talk about the primary market for UTs. These vehicles are primarily purchased by business owners, contractors, construction companies, and farmers. For these people, a Ute is a tool. It's not a status symbol or a luxury item. They care about reliability, payload capacity, towing capability, and durability. They want something that can handle tough working conditions and won't cost them a fortune if it needs repairs. A $75,000 vehicle with leather seats and fancy electronics isn't what they're looking for. Think about it from a practical standpoint. If you're a tradie running a construction business, your Ute is going to spend most of its time on muddy job sites carrying heavy materials or towing equipment. Those leather seats are going to get absolutely destroyed within weeks. That fancy infotainment system is going to be covered in dust and dirt. All those expensive electronics become potential liability problems when you're working in harsh conditions. It just doesn't make sense economically. These business owners would rather buy a simpler, cheaper model that they can get repaired quickly without breaking the bank on parts and service. There's another huge factor at play here, and this is something that manufacturers really didn't anticipate. The Australian market has been flooded with used imports from overseas, particularly from Japan and other Asian countries. These used imports are significantly cheaper than new premium Utes, and they often come with proven reliability records. A savvy buyer can pick up a quality used Ute with fewer kilometers for maybe $30,000 or $40,000, and that leaves them with $35,000 in their pocket. They can use that money for equipment, repairs, maintenance, or just keeping it as a safety net for their business. From a business perspective, this makes way more sense than dropping $75,000 on a brand new vehicle that immediately depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot. The depreciation factor is absolutely huge. New vehicles, especially trucks, lose value incredibly fast. But here's the thing, Australian business owners know this better than anyone. They understand that the moment you sign the paperwork and take ownership of a new premium Ute, you've instantly lost thousands of dollars in value. Some estimates suggest that a $75,000 Ute will drop to around $55,000 to $60,000 within the first year of ownership. That's not something that business owners want to deal with. They'd rather invest that money in something that holds value or something that generates income for their business. Another critical issue is something we rarely talk about in the automotive industry, and that's the culture of UT ownership in Australia. There's this interesting phenomenon where the most hardcore ute enthusiasts and the people who actually use these vehicles for serious work often prefer simpler, more utilitarian models. They view the premium, luxury ute as almost inauthentic. To them, a real ute is about function over form. Adding all these luxury features feels like going against the entire purpose of owning a utility vehicle in the first place. It's similar to how a farmer might think it's ridiculous to buy a luxury tractor when a standard one does the job just fine. The culture just doesn't align with what manufacturers are trying to sell. But wait, there's more to this story, and this is where it gets really interesting. The tax situation in Australia plays a significant role too. Australian tax law has specific rules about how business owners can claim vehicle expenses and depreciation. In some cases, buying a premium vehicle with all those features doesn't provide any additional tax benefit compared to buying a base model ute. In fact, sometimes it makes the tax situation more complicated. Business owners are looking at this from a purely financial perspective, and the math just doesn't add up for a $75,000 vehicle. Let's also talk about the elephant in the room. The cost of living in Australia has been absolutely brutal lately. Fuel prices have been volatile, insurance costs have skyrocketed, and maintenance expenses keep climbing. Small business owners and contractors are feeling the squeeze. They're being more careful with their money, and they're making more thoughtful purchasing decisions. When you're running a tight operation, spending $75,000 on a vehicle that doesn't provide direct revenue feels irresponsible. These buyers are going with more affordable options and putting that money toward things that will actually help their business grow. Here's something else that manufacturers completely missed. The rise of electric and hybrid vehicles is changing the game in ways that nobody expected. Even though electric utes aren't widely available in Australia yet, there's growing interest in these vehicles, especially among environmentally conscious business owners. Some companies are holding off on buying new traditional utes because they want to wait and see what electric options become available. Why spend $75,000 on a traditional premium ute when you might be able to get an electric ute in a couple of years that's better for the environment and potentially cheaper to operate? This uncertainty is definitely impacting sales in the premium segment. The marketing angle that manufacturers used also backfired in interesting ways. They positioned these premium utes as lifestyle vehicles, almost like you're buying into a certain image or social status. But that's not how Australians view utes. Australians view utes as practical working vehicles, and the idea that you need a luxury ute to feel good about yourself just doesn't resonate with the culture. It feels inauthentic and actually kind of embarrassing. Nobody in Australia wants to be seen as someone who's pretending their work vehicle is a status symbol. That's just not who Australians are as a people. The warranty and after-sales service situation has also become a bigger issue than manufacturers expected. While these premium utes come with extended warranties, the service centers that can handle them are often far away from where the vehicles are actually being used. In rural Australia, having to drive hundreds of kilometers to get your vehicle serviced because the local mechanic won't touch it due to warranty issues is a massive headache. Buyers are factoring this into their purchasing decisions, and many are opting for vehicles that can be serviced locally without complications. Now, let's talk about what this means for the automotive industry going forward. Manufacturers are going to have to make some serious adjustments to their strategies. They can't keep trying to force luxury features on a market segment that just doesn't want them. The data is clear, the buyers have spoken, and the market has rejected this approach completely. Some manufacturers are already starting to adjust their models, focusing more on work-oriented features rather than luxury amenities. Others are still stubbornly holding on to their premium ute strategy, and those companies are going to continue struggling until they understand what their customers actually want. The reality is that the UT market in Australia is segmented in a very specific way. You've got the budget buyers who want the cheapest option possible, you've got the mainstream buyers who want decent features at a reasonable price, and then you've got the ultra-premium buyers who want exotic vehicles that cost over $100,000. But that middle premium segment, the $75,000 sweet spot, has become a dead zone. There's almost no demand for it because it doesn't serve any specific market need particularly well. You're paying too much money if you're a practical buyer, but you're not spending enough to feel truly exclusive if you're a luxury buyer. It's the worst of both worlds. Here at the Drive Intel, we believe it's crucial to understand these market dynamics because they reveal so much about consumer behavior and business strategy. This situation in Australia is a textbook example of a company misunderstanding its market. Manufacturers thought they could convince Australians that premium utes were aspirational purchases, but the market very clearly said no. This is a lesson that resonates beyond Australia, and manufacturers around the world should be paying attention to what's happening down under. The question now becomes, what happens next? Will manufacturers double down on luxury features, or will they listen to what the market is actually telling them? Will they go back to focusing on durability, reliability, and practical features that working people actually need? The next few years will be absolutely crucial in determining the future of the Ute market, not just in Australia, but globally. We'll definitely be keeping a close eye on this situation and bringing you updates as it develops. Before you go, seriously consider subscribing to the Drive Intel, because we're constantly uncovering stories like this that the mainstream media just isn't talking about. Share this video with someone who works in the automotive industry, or anyone who's interested in understanding how markets actually work. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think. If you were in the market for a Ute, would you buy that premium $75,000 option, or would you make a different choice? We read every single comment, and your thoughts might just inspire our next investigation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.